You are listening to your New Puppies Podcast, starting you and your dog off on the right paw. Here's your host, Debbie Salento.
Hello and welcome to episode 100 of Your New Puppies Podcast. I'm Debbie, and yes, you heard that right. This is episode 100. So technically I have more than 100 episodes because I've done a few special episodes, which are like kind of bonus extras, but this is the official 100th episode. So back when I started this podcast, I was still having to tell people what a podcast was. And now we are here where podcasts are just so commonplace, but we are still going strong. And I could not be prouder of that. And also, I am humbled by it because it's you, my listeners, that have really driven the way I have presented this podcast. And now, over 2 million downloads and 50,000 subscribers later, here we are. And I'm going to tell you something that I tell everybody that will listen, is I have the best listeners ever. And that's not just, me saying that because I'm supposed to. Like, so many of you reach out to me through Instagram, you buy one of my digital courses, you hire me to do in person, and every single one of you are amazing, wonderful people. Like, I enjoy working with you so much. So that just tells me somehow I have the best listeners. So when you tell me you love the short, simple, to the point episodes, I'm going to give you short, simple, to the point episodes. When you tell me that this podcast has helped you with your dog, that means everything to me because that's why I started it. And it was this podcast and suggestions of my listeners that encouraged me to develop my signature puppy course, Your Perfect Puppy. And that by itself has been one of the best journeys. So now that we are here, I want to celebrate. I want to celebrate with you because you've had such a great impact on the podcast, on products and services I've developed. I'm going to run a little mini special through the end of October. So if you're listening in real time, it is October of 2024, and I'm going to run a special to the end of the month. I'm going to tell you about it at the end because if you're not listening in real time, that way you can just kind of like skip over it. But I have some free gifts if you decide to join one of my digital programs. Okay, so first, let's dive into the topic of today. When I was thinking about what do I want to do for my 100th episode, of course, I'm going to be reflecting back. Where has this podcast gone? What have I learned through the podcast? And what parts of this podcast do I love the most? And it really got me thinking about how much I love working with new puppy parents, especially first-time dog owners. Because whenever you're in an industry for a long period of time, especially if you're a teacher, and that's what I consider myself a teacher, it's really easy to get wrapped up in your own knowledge or take it for granted. And working with brand new puppy owners, you keep me grounded and you keep reminding me of the things that the average person just doesn't know about dog training, dog behavior, how to potty train and do these things, which I've been doing for over a decade and teaching for over a decade. And it constantly reminds me that the stuff I take for granted is the stuff that the average person doesn't know, and you shouldn't know. You're not sitting through hours of dog behavior lessons. You're not working with, 4 or 5 puppies a week. And that's why you'll always hear me say, raising a puppy is not common sense. It's a skill. And just like with any skill, you have to learn it and practice it. And just like with any skill you have to learn and practice, it's easiest when you have a guide and someone to teach you and support you along the way. That's when I started thinking about the things that I thought and I did before I was a trainer, when I was just an average dog owner. And I thought maybe this would be the perfect thing to talk about, because if I had those misconceptions, somebody listening is probably also having those misconceptions. And then throughout my own experience and my formal education as a dog trainer and my experience as a dog trainer, I have learned otherwise. And now maybe you can help learn from my mistakes. So when I was getting and adopting my first dog as an adult, where I was going to be the one fully responsible for it, I didn't think of myself as the average first-time dog owner. I thought of myself as a dog person. I've been around dogs my whole life. I grew up with a family dog. My grandparents always had dogs around. But the very first lesson I learned, that does not matter. Being around dogs, living with dogs is vastly different than being the one who is responsible for the dog's well-being and training. And this is where I very quickly learned, if you were not in it, don't make assumptions about how easy or hard it was for somebody else. Like, I have a whole new respect for my mother, who was the one who was at home the most. So she was raising 3 children and a dog. All I was doing is raising a puppy at the time, and it was hard emotionally, physically, and I had no idea. So that was my very first lesson, happened very quickly. Now, the second lesson happened over a greater period of time. So even when I got my very first dog, I wanted a full-bred dog, I wanted a lab, and I wanted a puppy, because I wanted to shape it into the dog that I wanted. And because of the misconception that I personally had, was that puppies are a blank slate. If you get a dog as a puppy, then you are in charge of how it grows up and what its actions and behaviors and personality will be like. But now at this point, especially in my studies of the past couple years, I know that is not true. And I've shared that with you. Dogs, just like us, just like any animal, is a combination of nature versus nurture. You could do every single thing right, and your dog still might have quirks that you weren't prepared for, because genetics does play a huge role. For example, if you have a guardian type breed, say a Great Pyrenees or a German Shepherd, you could socialize them up and down and do it right and have all of their experiences be positive, with people and even other dogs. But they still might have a problem with strangers coming into your house, with people outside the family. They're going to be wary of strangers. It's not guaranteed, but it is a likelihood. If we know this about our dog and our dog's genetics, we can put in some extra time into their socialization to give us a better chance, but it's still not guaranteed. Either way, if you have a herding breeds, it's very common for them to be reactive on leashes because of the movement around them. They don't like fast-moving things. They like things in order. So a chaotic, busy street with lots of dogs and people, they might not know how to handle. That doesn't mean they will be reactive on a leash. That also doesn't mean that if you have a non-herding breed, they won't be reactive. It's just something to know and keep in mind. And even if you did everything right and this behavior still happens, you didn't necessarily do something wrong. And that's really the lesson that I learned, especially when I got my second 2 dogs, who were both a year old at the time, so I didn't raise them as puppies, that, a lot of their insecurities and the trouble I was having with them, yes, was from lack of socialization, was lack of that nurture that they needed when they were puppies, but it was also part of just who they were as dogs. And once I started working with their personalities instead of trying to change them into the personality I wanted, everything changed. And I have now watched numerous clients go through some of these same realizations, because right now, most dogs are our pets and they're living in our homes and we're asking them to live as a family member. But it wasn't that long ago that dogs were working dogs that had specific jobs to do. Even our companion dogs were bred to be with us, so they have a tendency to have separation anxiety. And it's really, like I said, in the past couple of years, this is something I've really kind of gone deeper in with my training. So, are puppies a blank slate? No, not really. They already have some genetics, but there are some things that we can do through their socialization, through their nurturing. Does that mean if you have an older dog that you're out of luck because you can't change anything? That's not true either. It might be a little harder. We might have to go through some more work to change some more ingrained habits, but our dogs are amazingly adaptable, smart creatures. Okay, number 3, this is another one that took me a while to kind of come to terms with and figure out and then start teaching my clients, is not all dogs get along. Not all dogs love other dogs. You know, before I was a trainer and really studied dog behavior, even back when I was a pet sitter and studying dog behavior because I wanted to have group play sessions, dogs don't inherently get along just because they're dogs. And our puppies can sometimes fool us into this because puppies tend to love other dogs. Love other dogs. And this is when I always tell my clients, when your dog gets kicked out of daycare, especially if they're like around 18 months, they're not bad dogs. Maybe they're just not daycare dogs. If you take your dog to the dog park and they don't ever seem to have fun or they get into little tiffs, they just might not be dog park dogs. Because just like us, there are dogs that are social butterflies and like live to play with other dogs. And there are dogs who are like, I want nothing to do with them. I'd rather just stick with my human. Most of them are somewhere in between. We call it dog selective. They have their friends, they have certain types of dogs that they like, and the rest, they'd rather do without. So when we put them in this group play session where there's always new dogs around, some dogs don't like it. And that's okay. That's just who your dog is, and that is completely fine. Might be disappointing if you imagined yourself going to the dog park and hanging out and having your coffee and hanging out with your fellow dog friends, but the reality is sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's okay. And it's important to know this because when I just thought, well, they're dogs, they'll get along. Nope, that led to some of the most stressful dog owning years of my life. It brought me to this place. My girls, Lucy and Mariah, did not get along when I first adopted them. I did not know how to handle it, but that was the first step in bringing me to you. I had to hire dog trainers. I had bad experiences. I had good experiences, and it inspired me to increase people's good experiences by becoming a dog trainer myself. So the important thing to remember, other than if your dog gets kicked out of daycare, there's nothing wrong with them. You didn't do something wrong, is that socialization is very important. But remember, socialization with other dogs, socialization is important, yes, but specifically with other dogs, isn't so that they like other dogs. And so they'll always want to play with other dogs. It's so they can communicate with other dogs. So if they don't want to play, if they're not feeling it that day, or if they're just not feeling the energy of that dog, they can tell them in the best way possible. And the hope is if the other dog is also well socialized, they will read that and be like, okay, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. Now I could stay on here and give you 100 other lessons that I've learned, lessons that you have taught me, my clients have taught me, my clients' dogs have taught me. When I first started training, I knew that it wasn't going to be about the dogs. It was going to be about teaching people. But when I first started, I thought it was like, 50-50. I'm going to be teaching people, but I'm also going to be working with dogs. And something I very quickly learned is that it's more like 90-10. And that's why I love this podcast so much, because I get to teach you and you get to take what you've learned and apply it to your dog and learn with your dog, because that's how you raise a puppy. That's how you raise a dog. Otherwise, I would need to hold your hand throughout the whole process. And that's not useful to anybody. So that's why I teach you the why. I teach you to see the world through your dog's eyes, because I want to make you a little mini dog trainer that specializes in your dog. So the other thing that I have come to understand is that we have no idea what we don't know about dog behavior. I think there is a vast world of knowledge out there that we are still discovering. When I say we, I just mean like the dog behavior industry as a whole. We are learning new things every single day. Okay, so as promised, to celebrate 100 episodes, whether you've been here through the beginning or you just found me, I have a couple free gifts for you if you join one of my digital programs. So there's 2 offers here. One is going to be for Your Perfect Puppy, which is my signature 4-week puppy course to get you and your puppy started out right. And it includes 6 months of access directly to me through Playtime Paws Academy. And what that does is that gives you the confidence of having that trainer in your back pocket, because raising a puppy is hard and I want to be with you every step of the way, supporting you through that. So if you join before November 1st, so through October 31st, I'm going to give you a free one-on-one video session with me. So it's a 45-minute session, just me and you. You can use it right away if you're preparing for your puppy, or you can save it for a moment where you're just so overwhelmed that you need some really great personalized advice. So all you have to do is go to playtimepaws.com/puppy to get more information on the program. And it's automatic if you purchase it before November 1st. You don't need a coupon code or anything. And also when you go to that page, you're going to note that there is an option to buy the program as a gift. And you can also use that to purchase now and use later. So say you're getting your puppy like in January, so you're not quite ready to start the program. You can buy it now, and then you don't actually have to join or start until later if you want to take advantage of the free gift. Okay, number 2 is my 14 days to a stronger recall. So recall is coming when called. The skill we all want with our dogs. It means freedom. It means confidence. It means safety. It means being able to do things from an off-leash hike to opening your front door without worrying. So if you join my recall program, I'm going to give you my 14 days to a stronger Leave It program free. So you get both of these programs for the price of one. Now, Leave It is perfect if your dog picks up things on walks or dashes for any kind of food that's dropped on the ground, or really anything that's dropped on the ground. They steal your socks, things like that. Pretty much it's a leave that alone. So for that one, all you have to do is go to playtimepaws.com/recall. Again, no coupon code needed. This is going to be all automatic through October 31st. As always, all these links are going to be in the show notes. And if you have any questions about any of this or any of these programs, simply email me info@playtimepaws.com, or you can use the contact form that is on my website. Now, one final note is the recall program and the Leave It program are included inside Your Perfect Puppy. And they're always included. It's not part of this special because they are the basic skills I think you need when you have a new puppy. But if you like the idea of both of these offers, stick with the Your Perfect Puppy, because then you get everything. And that is all I have for you today. If you are enjoying this podcast, you can rate and review it wherever you listen. And if you would like to continue working with me, you know what to do. I just talked about some specials I have. It's a perfect time to do it if you've been thinking about it. I thank you so much for sticking with me. I'm so happy you found this podcast. And let's see what the next 100 episodes brings. I'll speak with you soon. Bye for now.